After 6 boring months of being home, it's finally time to go hard again. We welcome the 2013 Maxxis British Drift Championship here at Lydden Hill Race Circuit in Kent. With some new faces and some familiar ones too, it's time to go drifting. So we're all set up for a brand new season here at the British Drift Championship. But let's have a look at the best action from last year.
Putting the power down, Shane O'Sullivan. Shane O'Sullivan takes the win. Stephen Moore is all over Paul Smith. Shane O'Sullivan takes the win again. Jay White sticking to all the lines. Look how close they are around this final corner. But an absolutely fantastic day for James Fuller.
Well, that was last year, but we have a brand new season here, so I'm going to pass it over to our commentator Matt, who's also an ex-driver, who's going to take us around the track here at Lydden Hill.
Thanks, Corin. I'm going to take you around the track. So the guys are going to come down from the start, down Dover Slope, into Devil's Elbow. This is a front clip, so the guys are going to get as close as they can to this clipping point, set themselves up for the transition and then the hairpin. Here we have the second corner of the course. This is a hairpin, so the guys are going to come from corner 1, transition, try and keep as tight to the line as possible, set themselves up for the second clip and the final corner. Here at Paddock Bend, the final corner of the Lydden Hill circuit. This is an inside clipping point, so the judges are going to want to be seeing the cars as close as they can to this clipping point. Going to see some good third, fourth gear, 120, 130 mile an hour today. Loads of smoke.
So as the crowd's starting to build and the teams are getting ready for the battles, let's see how they got on in qualifying.
So the Saturday qualifying session was quite a difficult one with heavy rain coming down, but Liam Duran took the top spot with 73 points and Oliver Silcock and Tom Marshall both with 67 points, coming in second and third. So the Pro Class qualifying sees Jay Green, Jay White and Gareth Taylor coming up from the Semi-Pro Class in 2012 and taking the top 3 spots. So with poor weather conditions on the Saturday, Super Pro qualifying was moved to the Sunday. Paul Smith taking a 3rd spot with 90 points. Phil Morrison from Driftworks in the R32 taking 93 points and stealing the 2nd spot. Mark Luna in the Lucas Oils Supra taking 96 points and the top spot. Super Pro qualifying didn't go, however, without its dramas. Stephen Biagioni rolling his freshly built S13, a first in UK drifting. A quick OK from the paramedics and Bagsy swapped his driving seat for the grandstand. So we've seen the results from the top 3. Steve Moore came in 4th with 90 points, Shane O'Sullivan a point behind him on 89 and Shane Lynch a point behind that with 88 points. With lots of changes going on in the off season, let's have a catch up with some of the drivers to see what's been going on.
It's had a few little engine tweaks, it's been for a remat, a few little suspension tweaks, but the big change is going to be for round 2. I'm waiting for a few bits from a new engine, so the new engine should be about 700 horsepower, but as it is now, it's pretty much the same as last year, just about 20-30 more horsepower. There's some stiff competition, there's a lot of guys over from Ireland as well. It's going to be tough this year, but I'm here to win it again.
We stripped the whole car down over the off season and done a good bit of chassis work and lightening and making it stronger. Seems to be working fairly well, and hopefully today goes as well as yesterday. I got some dry laps yesterday and I went out for a couple of laps in the wet as well, just in case it was wet today, so it's a big difference. A few suspension changes and it'll be okay.
You had an unlucky season last year, you blew 3 engines. Are you looking forward to this season?
Yes, I'm looking for this season. It's been 9 years last year, so looking forward to do all the rounds this season.
I've got it mapped properly by Greg Gush, which is very, very good now, and enough power to spin third whenever I want, really. So it's a good car now. It's just reliability I went for.
So a good start needed here from the boys and girls smoking up the tarmac. That's enough talking for now. Let's just get into the battles.
So the crowds gathered and the sun came out. We narrowed it down from our top 16 to our finalists. And here we see 3rd and 4th place battle of Marcin Mucha in the Toyota Supra going up against Nick Statham in the R33. Marcin the lead car, and Nick's going to try and close it down in this final section as he goes round the hairpin and down that final bend. Marcin still pulling a lead on Nick. We're going to have to wait and see for the second battle. Okay, so we see the second battle. It's going to be Nick leading, with Marcin hunting him down into the first corner as we watch them initiate. Nick with an early initiation and Marcin struggling a little bit through that section, having to make corrections to the steering lock of the car as he goes round that first corner, tidying it up a little bit through the hairpin, keeping it nice and close, but backing off as he goes into the final corner and straightening as he goes through there. So we're straight into the semi-pro final. We have Matt Samuel in the Car Loan For You 300ZX as the lead car, and Matt Hitchcock chasing him down in the supercharged E46 BMW. Matt Samuel showing good angle as he goes through that first corner. Matt Hitchcock all over the rear of the 300ZX, but straightening as he goes through that hairpin corner. He's going to have to try and claw it back now in this final corner, but Matt Samuel just laying down the rubber and smoking Matt out as he exits. First run out of the way, it's going to be swapped round. Matt Hitchcock becomes the lead car, Matt Samuel the chase car. Early initiation from Matt Samuel. He's going to have to try and close that gap to Matt Hitchcock as he enters that hairpin corner. Can he tighten it up and get on the door of the E46 BMW? Matt Samuel showing some fantastic angle in the 300ZX. Can he continue that through this final corner and close the gap? Good angle as they leave that final corner. The question is, who is going to take the win? So Matt Samuel taking the win at round 1. Matt Hitchcock in a close second, and Nick Statham taking 3rd place on the podium.
I was a bit nervous because of the practice yesterday and the weather changing, and it was causing havoc for everyone. But luckily the weather's been good all day and had a fantastic result. All my runs came off better than I could expect.
So moving on to our pro class, we're going to see the battle for 3rd and 4th place. Alex Law going up against Chris Hawkins in the S13, the lead car. Fantastic initiation from Chris Hawkins. He's going to use the extra power in that car this year to try and pull a gap on Alex Law, following in the S14A. As they exit that hairpin corner, Chris turns on the smoke and extends the gap through that final corner on that first run. So straight into battle 2. Alex Law in the S14A as the lead car, Chris Hawkins as the chase car. Good initiation from both drivers. Chris Hawkins is closing the gap into that hairpin. A small error from Alex Law forcing Chris into making a correction, but Chris is straight back on it, and as you can see on the door of the Car Loan For You S14A, down that hill and into the final corner. Chris Hawkins showing great car control there in that run. So third and fourth place done with. It's on to our pro final. We're going to see Jay Green in the green S13 going up against Jay White from Team M&M in the S14A. Jay Green with a great initiation and Jay White hunting him down. As you can see, close proximity driving there from Jay White. Jay Green's going to try and pull a lead now down the hill in the green S13. As you can see, using the power to try and pull away from Jay White and into that final corner. So battle number 2, we see Team M&M's Jay White in the S14. The lead car, Jay Green, is going to chase him into that first corner. Good initiation again from both drivers, but an error from Jay White forcing him into the gravel and throwing the run away to Jay Green. Jay Green's just got to continue that drift. Meanwhile, Jay White is back on the track. Jay Green just needs to make it cleanly through this final section without an error to gain a clean sheet. And a spin from Jay Green. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, was that after the finish line? Well, I can tell you it was indeed. Jay Green taking the first spot, Jay White second, and Chris Hawkins taking a respected third.
It was a tough battle. It was very tight. Both of us made mistakes, which we admitted after. But generally, yeah, it worked out well. The car's working really well now due to Null at Turbo Nos. It was a more range of power which I could use to my advantage.
Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen, because after the break we're going to have our Super Pro class. Welcome back to Lydden Hill here in Kent, where our attention quickly moves to the Super Pro class. And we're into our Grade 8 battles. David Waterworth, a veteran in the BDC, going up against Christian Lewis, who has progressed into the Super Pro class for 2013. David Waterworth in the V10 S15 as the lead car, followed by Christian Lewis, who nudges that apex and causes a spin on that first run. So David Waterworth keeping his cool and keeping it pinned round that final corner. On to battle number 2. Christian Lewis, the lead car in the white R33 Skyline. David Waterworth to chase him down. Great initiation from Christian Lewis. But David Waterworth showing good angle, but too early into the apex on that first corner. Christian needs to hold it around the hairpin and push it down that hill. This could be anyone's, ladies and gentlemen, into that final corner. David Waterworth closing the gap on Christian Lewis with some good angle. Okay, so battle number 2 in our Grade 8 is Simon Perry versus Phil Morrison. Phil Morrison in the Driftworks R32, the lead car, with a fantastic entry, but Simon Perry, used to aggressive driving, is going to keep it pinned and on the door of Phil Morrison. Into the hairpin, close proximity. Simon will push it down the hill into that final corner. Can he keep it close to Phil Morrison, or can Phil Morrison stretch the lead? Close battle. Battle number 2 sees him switch around. Simon Perry to lead in the Lasser tyres. R33 Skyline going up against Phil Morrison in the black 32. Fantastic initiation from both drivers. Phil trying to close the gap as Simon did in the first run, but Simon pulling a slight lead into that hairpin. Huge correction from Phil Morrison as he misses the gear, but Simon Perry's going to keep it pinned right round that final corner. Alright, so we move swiftly on to our next battle. Current champion Paul Smith in the Jap Speed S15 going up against Kieran Sinnott, all the way over from Ireland, in the chase car. Paul Smith showing his consistency through that first section, opening the taps and smoking out Kieran Sinnott, who is going to hunt him down into that final corner. But Paul pulling a fantastic lead and possibly taking the advantage there from Kieran. So up with our second battle, it's switch around time. Kieran Sinnott as the lead car in the TDP S15, followed by Paul Smoky Smith, as he's so frankly been nicknamed, into that first corner. Kieran struggling a little bit there to try and keep the angle on the S15 as he goes round into that final hairpin. Paul Smith closing the gap and showing great car control as he almost nudges the camera, having to back off slightly, and Kieran struggling a little bit to keep that drift going. Okay, so we're into our next battle. We're going to see the Volvo estate of Mark Huxley up against Mark Looney. Mark Looney in the Lucas Oil Supra. Top qualifier here at Lydden Hill. And as you can see, fantastic entry from Mark Looney. Starting to pull a gap already from Mark Huxley. This, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why Mark took top spot during qualifying. As they go down the hill, Mark Looney extending that gap massively from Mark Huxley. He's going to get the advantage here on this run. So Malks, the start line marshal, sets them back off down into that first corner. Huxley to be the lead car. Can he make this V8 Volvo work for him on this final run? Slight correction there, but Mark Looney keeping it pinned and on the door of Huxley. Nice and tight, good close proximity. Small straighten from both drivers as they go into that final corner. Mark Looney sticking with the Volvo of Huxley, and let's find out the results. So David Waterworth does indeed take the win from Christian Lewis. Simon Perry took the win from Phil Morrison, and Paul Smith and Mark Looney to progress into the next battles. And here are those next battles. We're going to see in our semi-final David Waterworth going up against Simon Perry, one of these drivers looking for a place in the final. Simon Perry as the lead car in the pink R33 Skyline. David Waterworth is going to try and hunt him down now in the V10 Viper powered S15. Simon Perry using all of his experience and skill to keep that R33 Skyline out in front and pulling a fantastic gap from David Waterworth to surprise the judges. So first run over and done with. We're going to see the second run in our first semi-final. David Waterworth the lead car, Simon Perry the chase car. David Waterworth with a good early initiation, but Simon Perry matching him all the way through that first section. Simon Perry is going to keep it nice and close in this second corner through the hairpin as the guys head down the hill and up shifter gear into the final corner. Can Simon keep it on the door of David Waterworth? A small gap, but one that could take the advantage there for Simon Perry. Alright, so straight into our second semi-final. We see the Lucas Oils drift team of Mark Looney in the Supra going up against Team Japspeed's Paul Smoky Smith. So good entries from both drivers into that first corner. Paul Smith and Mark Looney showing good angle. Paul needs to close the gap slightly through that hairpin, which he does. The question is, can he see through the smoke that Mark Looney is producing as they go down into that final corner? Mark Looney pulling a slight lead there from Paul Smith. We'll have to wait and see in the second run. So the guys switch it around into the first corner. It is going to be Paul Smoky Smith in the Japspeed S15. Mark Looney chasing him into that first corner though with some good angle. Paul Smith showing some fantastic driving, and the guys very close as they go through that hairpin. Paul Smith flicks it into that final corner. Ladies and gentlemen, this battle could be anyone's, but Mark Looney straightening there in that final section. Okay, so the third and fourth place battle to David Waterworth and Mark Looney. These guys have done battle previously, so know exactly what to expect. Mark Looney and David Waterworth, some fantastic angle into that first corner, running off that clipping point. David Waterworth taking a tighter line there to try and catch Mark Looney in the Supra. Mark Looney pulling a gap on that first run. So they switch it around. Mark Looney will become the chase car, David Waterworth the lead car. David Waterworth will try and use all the horsepower that V10 powered S15 has. Mark Looney with a correction there in the first corner. I'm sure the judges will have seen that. He's going to try and make up for it though through this final area of the track. Down the hill, David Waterworth again keeping his cool through this final section, and another straight there from Mark Looney as he almost grips that final corner. So we've made it to our Super Pro final, ladies and gentlemen. It is Team Lasser tyres. Simon Perry up against Team Jap Speed with the Maxxis tyres. S15 into the first corner. A fantastic and early initiation from Paul Smith. Simon Perry following a little late there with that initiation, but closing that gap into that hairpin corner as he has done all day. Can he maintain that distance behind Paul Smith? Paul Smith trying to pull a lead there from Simon Perry. It's a close one. Back on the start line, Simon Perry as the lead car, Paul Smith the chase car. Could it go down to this final battle? Good initiation from both drivers and fantastic proximity from Paul Smith as he pushes it a little bit wide. He's going to have to try and close the gap to keep and maintain the advantage that he got in the first run. As he goes down the hill, both drivers using the ability that they've got behind the steering wheel to try and take the win to impress the judges. So taking the top spot is Paul Smith, Simon Perry there with a close second, and David Waterworth getting that final step on the podium in third.
Every single battle, every driver out there is on top form. So I just managed to just sort of keep it pinned, put it in their door basically, and come away with a win.
Well, what a great way to start the 2013 British Drift Championship. We've seen skids, lines, angles and a few crashes. What do you make of it all, Matt?
Oh, it's everything we want to see, and I'm just so glad that the sunshine came out today. That was what we were looking for. Guys managed to put the power down, do the cars exactly what they're built for.
Well, that's all we've got time for, but remember, go hard or go home.